Good morning and welcome to Grace Church on the Hill, to Christian education in Lent. This is our final installment of this series, Vices and Virtues, and we've got a double header today.
Yes, we have, let's see, got to put my glasses on. We have envy and love, pride and humility.
Yeah, so
double whammy.
Thank you for joining us for our final installment, and Susan, why don't you take us away?
Well, I just wanted to talk to a little bit about envy. Envy is not really a sin if you just say, I envy you that you are taller than I am. I envy you that, that's just sort of normal conversation. Envy is the kind of emotion where you actively want something that somebody else has, and you're willing to do something to get it. And so envy is not really a benign kind of emotion. It's an active sin. I envy you that, so I'm going to make sure that I get it and you don't have it. That's the other part about it. You don't have it. It's all about me. Self-centeredness, it's all about me. There's lots of stories about envy in the scriptures. I'm thinking about Cain and Abel. That certainly is a story of envy that does not lead to good things.
Yeah, maybe showing some of the interconnections of vices there.
Yes.
Envy leading to anger.
Leading to murder, exactly. And also when you think about, how about David and Bathsheba? He envies Uriah's wife, and then he actively does something negative to make sure that Bathsheba becomes his wife rather than Uriah's wife. Yeah. So it isn't just, oh, she's pretty, or it'd be nice to be married to her, she's so kind to everybody. It's, I'm going to make sure that she becomes my wife by doing something evil to another person. So envy is a very active kind of a sin that, as you said, leads to other sorts of sins. Now, of course, there is the alternative, which would be love rather than envy. I mean, and again, I'm not talking about the kind of envy where you sort of offhandedly wish that you had written that book or something. But talking about the kind that is actively negative. Love substitutes for envy. Love is the sort of the counterpoint of envy, and allows one to participate in the joy that another person has.
I like that sense of participation.
Germans have this word, it's called Schadenfreude, and it's roughly translated, it means I have joy in somebody else's sorrow. Well, love doesn't allow for joy in somebody else's sorrow. It only allows for joy. And when you think about it, don't you think that the notion of this negativity, this envy, eats away at one's ability to experience life in its fullest? It becomes a burden rather than a joy. Life becomes a burden rather than a joy, because it's like, oh gosh, what was the name of that really early computer game that now has come back into style? Pac-Man. Doesn't Pac-Man eat other things?
Yes.
Yes. So envy is like, sort of like Pac-Man.
Yeah.
But it's yourself that's being eaten, not the other.
Yeah, it seems like a way of hoarding joy, and in that kind of also diminishing one's own joy.
That's it. And since one of the things that we are supposed to do is love our neighbors as we love ourselves, since we're supposed to love God, envy sort of takes care of that in a most negative kind of a way, and robs us of any feeling of any feeling of participation in life that leads to happiness. I don't know if there's anything more to be said about envy and love. Can you think of other, something else that we might say about that?
I'd just say that right now it seems like envy is when so much of our sense of reality is mediated by screens and this perception of how other people are doing through, Instagram or social media, it seems like a particularly tricky vice to deal with right now in that, we can envy what other people's experiences are, maybe I see a photo of someone in another country who's been vaccinated and I envy their experience, and that's maybe not necessarily bad in itself, but where that leads.
That's it. To envy somebody for something is fine as long as it goes only so far and no farther. It's when you decide to snatch the COVID needle from somebody's hand and jab it into your own arm that you have reached the kind of envy that we're talking about today. The kind of envy that is so negative and so hurtful to the other. I think maybe the 7 deadly sins really boil down to the notion of what is hurtful to other people, and then consequently hurtful to us as well. So envy, I think, is a big one. It's not something we really think about all that much, I don't think, but maybe most of us have more benign envies than the kind of envy that we're talking about.
Yeah, it's a little bit less, it seems a little more internal than some of the other ones, like,
yes.
I don't know, lust or anger. These things seem like they've got pretty direct, like, manifestations, but envy seems like it could warp you in a way that's not necessarily evident.
And envy, perhaps, I love what you just said, because envy can have a subtle target, whereas anger, lust, you sort of name the target, you know what the target is.
Yeah.
It's always somebody else, it's the other. But envy is kind of a devious one. It's probably the thing that makes murder mystery writers the happiest. Because I love murder mysteries. Because it's subtle enough that it can last for 300 pages.
Yeah, it takes some revelation to get underneath all those layers.
That's right, that's right. The other thing that we're talking about today is pride and humility. Now, that's another one that has sort of interior boundaries, I think. Why shouldn't we have pride for our accomplishments? There's no need to denigrate the things that we ourselves have done. The same way, humility has that negative context too, where, oh shucks, I won the Nobel Prize. Oh, it was nothing. It was nothing. I just found the cure for X, Y, and Z, but it's nothing. No, I think we're allowed to have the kind of pride that lets us name what we have done. The kind of pride, however, that goes beyond that naming and insists upon, therefore I'm number 1 and everybody else is number 2, number 3, and number 5. That's the kind of thing that we're talking about today, is the kind of pride that sort of is like a balloon. It expands to the point where there's no room for anything else.
Yeah, one of the images that comes to mind for me, I like that balloon image, is just like if you're having a conversation with someone and you notice that basically everything you say gets sort of diverted back into something about them. It seems like a good indication that that balloon has expanded a little past its
It's
point.
kind of one-upmanship. Yeah, my child got straight A's. Well, my kid got straight A pluses. You know, it's please, as they say in seminary. What do they call a seminarian who receives, after they are ordained, if they receive all A's? They call them pastor. And what does a seminarian who receives all C's get what are they called after they're ordained? Pastor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's all about the heart. It's not about the I don't know, the stuck-upness or something, you know. I got all A's, by the way.
I'm sure. Pastor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In today's culture, I think it's fair to say that humility is not something that people admire. Everybody seems to be pounding their chest, and I realize that if you don't blow your own horn, who's going to do it? I mean, there is that. But there is perhaps a difference between claiming your accomplishments, claiming your talents, and overselling those same talents. Do you think that's fair to say?
Yeah. There seems to be a sort of anxiety about not getting one's due and not getting enough attention. That doesn't seem like it's healthy in that response. Whereas humility to me seems like it shows someone's really secure in who they are and what they've done, and they don't feel a need to, you know, constantly be drawing attention to themselves.
Or elbowing somebody else out of the way,
Yeah.
you know? Pride is not necessarily negative, just as happiness is not negative. I mean, you can be proud of your family, you can be happy in your family, you can be happy and proud of your work, happy in your work, all those kinds of things. There's nothing negative about that. Again, it's when you take those things and you push them to the extreme, when the only thing is me, it's all about me, it's always been about me, there's nobody else but me. And at the same time, humility becomes negative when I never do anything, I'm just a worm, that kind of thing, you know.
Which in its own way seems to sort of draw attention back to oneself in the sense that, it seems like you're not really seeing yourself rightly if you're talking about yourself in those terms.
Yeah. The bottom line, perhaps, is that we're all of us made by God, in God's image, and consequently, we can have a sense of security that we're worthy, that we don't have to either stress or denigrate who and what we are, because we're God's child, and that is more than enough. I don't know about here in Canada, but in the United States, the Episcopal Church has a women's group, or had a women's group, called Daughters of the King. Do you know about them?
I have heard of it, yeah.
Yes. Daughters of the King is a group that meets and does good works and Bible studies and all that kind of thing. And I always loved that title for that group, because it indicates just exactly who those people are. They're daughters of the King, they're daughters of God, and therefore worth so much, whether they are nuclear physicists or I don't know whatever they are. They're worthy in God's eyes, and therefore are worthy in our eyes as well. And so don't have to apologize for taking up space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if I could ask you about pride. I'm thinking of some theologians who say that pride is sort of like the most basic sin. It's talk about Satan. John Milton, famously portrays Satan as proud, and that was sort of
pride cometh before the fall.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't know how would you frame the connection between pride and the other vices?
I think that that's a good question, and I think that the answer might be that all these vices have no room for anybody else. You've basically crowned yourself Lord of all, and therefore you're in charge of everything, and therefore whatever you say goes, and whatever you want you get, and the devil take the hindmost. Luther says that we are, as Christians, we are servants of all, and as Christians we are Lord of all. And it sounds like a dichotomy, but it really isn't, because we have our identity as children of God, therefore we can afford to serve other people, because we know who we are. We are God's beloved children. Consequently, we don't have to worry about status. We don't have to worry about that kind of thing, because how much better can it get than to be a child of God? I mean, after that, the rest is adiaphora. It's just gravy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The signature is already on the adoption.
The signature is on the adoption paper. It's there in indelible ink, and it ain't going to go nowhere. And so we are therefore free to be open and generous, and know that the pie is not one of those that you can only slice into 8 pieces and that's the end of it. But the pie continues to grow as we continue to grow and to understand about generosity and God's love.
Yeah, I like that note of the expansiveness of creation and of our response of being generous, and it's that.
It's sort of like the Big Bang Theory in a way, you know? Bang, and then all love expands.
Yeah.
Because God is love.
Yeah, and the servant and lordship of Jesus seem like kind of a way into that generosity.
Right, because not only is Jesus Lord, but Jesus is also a servant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He got down there and scrubbed the disciples' feet.
Yes, he did. He got down there and scrubbed those disciples' feet. Though in my last parish we washed hands because everybody was getting up there and they didn't want to kneel for fear they wouldn't be able to get up anymore.
Okay, yeah. Contextualize.
That's right, we're
Yeah.
contextualizing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just something in the joy of salvation that allows you to be free to share that joy and whatever comes with it.
Well, joy seems like a good note to end on.
I think so. I
Yeah.
think it's a very good note to end on.
Yes, and as we look forward to Holy Week and
Easter,
yes. We can have a little taste of the joy that's to come.
Amen. Bye-bye.
Bye.